Здравствуйте, this is Jane Hoffman. A transcribed video from my radio broadcast, www.blogtalkradio.com/Tabernacle Faith. I want to preface this show by saying there's been some false information in the social media lately saying that Carter Page formerly worked for the FBI. Now, I don't know if that's true, but in 2013, Carter Page would not have been an FBI undercover for one reason and one reason only. The FBI surveilled him because he had ties to a Russian spy who is here on Russian business. Now, some conservatives are complaining that he was undercover spying on this Russian, but the reason it's not true is because he didn't know the Russian was a spy. So if you listen to this episode, we have a lot of information on the Russian probe, and I'll get to it in just one moment. Don't believe the hype. And actually, this Russian probe is pretty secretive because we don't really know what information is going to come out, and I'm on the side of the truth. I'm not going to favor one side or another. Thank you for listening. Here we go. Okay, we're having another blocked audio problem. I have to restart it. Just a second. Carter Page was under surveillance by the FBI in 2013 because he had ties to a controversial Russian figure, Viktor Podobny. Page had been on recently, he's been on a media blitz to exonerate himself since early 2012. He tried to play the victim as the FBI target and inadvertently had told MSNBC way back in October of 2016 that Paul Ryan would pull the plug and release classified FISA information. Now I'm cutting to the show. Welcome to the Super Bowl after party. Tonight we're going to be talking about the dossier, who the FBI chose to surveil, and other topics relating to Carter Page and the Russian spy ring. I'm going to start with a Prince song since Justin Timberlake featured him tonight on the Super Bowl halftime show. I'm not a woman, not a man. I'm something that you'll never understand. I'll never beat you, I'll never lie. And if you're civil or evil, I'll forgive you by and by. 'Cause you, I would die for you. Darling, if you want me to, you, I would die for you. I'm not your lover, I'm not your friend. I'm something that you'll never comprehend. No need to worry, no need to cry. I'm your Messiah and you're the reason why. You, I would die for you. Darling, if you want me to, you, I would die for you. Did just a sinner, I am told. Be your fire when you're cold. Make you happy when you're sad. Make you good when you are bad.
I'm pausing this episode for a message from our sponsor. Please tune in.
Это сообщение было одобрено Российской Федерацией. Мы оставляем за собой право получать прямую информацию напрямую от российского Кремля. Это сообщение было одобрено Российской Федерацией. Мы оставляем за собой право получать прямую информацию напрямую от российского Кремля.
This message was approved by the Russian Federation. We reserve all rights to get our information directly from the Kremlin. Thank you for listening. And I'm cutting back to the radio broadcast.
Love Talk Radio. Different time. They started, here's the dates that he began becoming surveilled by the FISA court. It was started in October of 2016 and renewed in January 2017. It was renewed in April 2017 and July of 2017. He was under surveillance because of a connection to a Russian spy who turned out not to be in this country and was escorted back to Russia. The problem is he was the centerpiece of the GOP memo. And the question I'm asking is, he left the campaign already when they started surveilling him, and he wasn't charged with anything. So why would the Republicans make that the centerpiece of their memo? Also, Carter Page did an interview on October of 2017 at MSNBC with Chris Sage. He stated that Paul Ryan was going to give the green light to release classified files from FISA to prove that he was being surveilled. Now, why would he know 4 months ahead of time about that? This was 4 months ago that he mentioned Paul Ryan giving the green light for the releasing the classified information, which, by the way, the FISA courts are supposed to be held in strict confidence and not to be released to the general public. So the GOP took a risk in doing that. They broke the legal confidence of the government, and they were basically conspiring against a administrative agency while in Congress. I know Ben will disagree with me. Another thing I want to point out, I'm going to finish my introduction. The Russian probe started in the summer of 2016 due to unethical involvement by Paul Manafort with the Russians, in which he had a debt of $20 million to an oligarch, which we covered before. George Papadapoulos was also the target of the investigation. FBI agent Pete Strzok opened the investigation based on information about Papadapoulos rather than the dossier. The New York Times have previously reported that Papadapoulos bragged to an Australian that the Russians had damaging information on Hillary Clinton before the hack of the DNC became known publicly. The Australian government tipped off the FBI to what Papadapoulos had said, according to the Times. And by the way, he pled guilty. He pled guilty of lying to the FBI and is now cooperating with Mueller's investigation. He did this on his own accord, and ironically, he was another Trump volunteer like Paul Manafort and the others. None of these people were key players, but yet they wanted a piece of the pie. The timeline indicates the investigation was forthcoming aside from the Steele dossier. When Trump put out false information that Barack Obama was tapping Trump Towers in October of 2016, it was in fact the FBI tapping his campaign aides. It was a deflection of the truth, and it was dirty politics. Now, I understand what Ben was saying, so I'm going to ask him the first question. If the FBI was only going by a dossier paid by a lawyer on the Hillary Clinton campaign, wouldn't they do more investigation than just take the word of a researcher paid by Hillary's lawyers? The last point I want to bring up is Carter Page was a nobody and a political circus act in the media. He had no security profile before 2016. He had no foreign policy specialty. And he had ties to the VEB bank that was part of the Russian spy ring of 2013. So why would Donald Trump even want him on his campaign? He had no special skill. Skill he had is some energy consulting background. So with that, I'm going to ask Ben the first question of why the FBI would only go by research collected by someone paid by a political campaign. Greetings, Albert and Ben. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, what's up?
Hi, Ben and Albert. And Albert, thank you for answering.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your feedback too on this. Ben, are you there? Well,
Yeah, I'm
apparently
here.
he'll come
Oh, you
back.
didn't hear any of that. Sorry. You didn't
Yeah,
hear
I
any
didn't
of
hear you say. No, I didn't. My question to you is, according to the filing dates of the FISA, the Federal Intelligence Surveillance Act, some of these pursuits on the volunteer aids were done before the dossier was released. And why would the FBI go by a dossier paid for by a researcher from Hillary's paid lawyer?
Exactly. Why would they use a basically hearsay, which could be just propaganda? It was paid for by the DNC.
But they didn't just go by that. That's my point. They had dirt on
right,
Papadapoulos.
But what was the basis for the FISA warrant, the FISA investigation?
Well, I hope you heard my whole intro.
Right. The dossier
Carter
was the
Page,
reason why. Right.
No, not according to a source that I had. He was tied to a Russian figure in 2013, Victor Podobny, and he also, in which they were trying to get money off of the VEB bank. And in 2016, he was a resigned volunteer for the Trump campaign. And according to that, there was some dirt on him.
All right, but when you have top FBI officials, the leadership of the FBI, sending texts back and forth saying how they hate Trump, they literally are Trump haters, and they hate the people that vote for Trump, and then those people are selected to do questioning by Mueller. They already know they had this.
How do you know that they sent dirty texts about Trump?
Strzok and Page were talking to each other. It's Lisa Page. I think it's no relation to the other Page.
No, it isn't. I read an article that she's not a relation to Carter Page.
Right. So when you have that, there is no independent counsel anymore. When something like that happens, there goes the idea that it's not going to be biased. There's a plan. They're going to, according to some plan from the beginning. And Obama knew this. He spent tax dollars campaigning for Hillary, knowing that the thing was rigged. He was allowing this to be rigged.
You know, there were people in the Trump campaign that were associated with the Russians. I don't know. I'm not an FBI agent. I don't know the original trigger, but it was more than the dossier.
Okay, then tell me this: why would there?
Guy bragging? He bragged that the Russians had dirt on Hillary, and that was his own big mouth, and he disclosed that he was wrong.
Right, but okay, answer me this: if they're doing a FISA investigation on the Trump campaign for plausible ties to Russia because of a document that nobody has verified, why wasn't there also a second FISA investigation into the Clinton campaign for buying secrets from a supposed British spy?
I don't
That's
know,
sedition
but
also.
my main premise is I disagree with you. I think the FBI had more than a dossier. They had a lot of the people who volunteered for Trump, and I'm not even sure if they were paid, like Paul Manafort, who once had Ferdinand Marcos as his client in Washington, who was had murdered his opponent in a Philippines national race. There were a lot of people with shady backgrounds that had connections to the Republicans with millions of dollars in debt. So maybe they, anybody who is at a top profile of a campaign, maybe they are tipped off in different ways to investigate them.
By the leadership,
right?
you know,
Right, and
the
now I see
leadership
this
at the top
letter
had. Right.
Okay, so, well, I
it's
was
obvious
going to
to
read
me.
part of the memo.
Okay.
Would you like me to do that?
Sure.
Okay, and Albert, you can comment when I'm done, okay?
Okay.
On January 29th, it was addressed to Honorable Devin Nunes, the chairman for the House Select Committee on Intelligence. So is Devin Nunes, I hate to ask this, but what is he, a congressman or is he part of the White House? Do you guys know?
I thought he was part
He's
of the
the
committee.
chairman. Yeah, so he must be a representative. On January 29th, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, hereinafter referred to as the committee, voted to disclose publicly a memorandum containing classified information provided to the committee in connection with oversight activities. As provided by Clause 11G of Rule X of the House of Reps, the committee has forwarded this memorandum to the president based on its determination that the release of the memorandum would serve the public interest. And I'm going to interject that releasing FISA information is declassifying it. The Constitution vests the president with the authority to protect national security secrets from disclosure. As the Supreme Court has recognized, president's responsibility to classify, declassify, and control access to information on intelligence sources and methods and national defense. In order to facilitate appropriate congressional oversight, the executive branch may entrust classified information to the appropriate committees of Congress. Okay, this is not the memo. I hate to say it. So I'm just going to summarize to you what I read the other day. It was basically saying that Carter Page was a target. And that's what the memo was about. The whole memo was about Carter Page.
Right.
And I don't really think I should read this to the general public because we're supposed to be debating it already.
Still,
Albert, what do you have to say about this?
Well, they have, I don't know. I mean, it's just, you know, I think they lost well, didn't they lose the data or something? They lost and then they found it somehow. For some reason, they found the data on it.
No, they didn't lose anything, Albert, but I did find part of the real memo. You're just going to have to give me a minute because part of it was wiped out on a page.
Well, I like to hear what Don thinks about it.
Don isn't on the show yet, and I still have to text him.
Oh, I thought he was there. Okay. What about John?
Okay, in this Newsweek abbreviated version, it says that the memo claims that the FBI and Justice Department failed to mention that they were relying heavily on research by a former British intelligence officer, Christopher Steele. The Steele dossier, also known as the Russian dossier, is highly controversial because it alleges that Trump was being cultivated by Russia for years. Some aspects of the dossier, especially those regarding Tate, has been verified. And now with the Nunez memo.
I think it's Nunes. I don't think that's a Mexican last name. I think it's just Nunes.
No, he is Latino, Nunez.
Well, that's not an N-Y, that's just an N.
I can't find the effing dossier. I mean the memo. So you guys are gonna have to ad lib until I find it. Tell me what you think about the whole thing, and why does Hillary Clinton always get blamed?
Why do you think this is news at all? The whole point is that the investigation was BS all year. We've been paying for this thing, and the reason is because it was not fair.
So why is the FBI too proud now to admit they're wrong?
Well, it's weird because I think wasn't those two FBI agents that were talking bad about Donald Trump, and then they found the messages or something like that about it.
Yes, Strzok and Page.
I found the document, you guys. Albert, you'll understand what it means after I read this. This memorandum provides members an update on significant facts relating to the committee's ongoing investigation into the DOJ and FBI and their use of Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act during the 2016 election cycle. Our findings are detailed below. It raises concerns about the legality of the DOJ and FBI. On October 21st, 2016, DOJ and FBI sought and received a FISA probable cause order authorizing electronic surveillance on Carter Page from the FISC. Page is a U.S. citizen who served as a volunteer advisor to the Trump campaign. Consistent with requirements under FISA, the application had to be first certified by the director or deputy director of the FBI. If then required the approval of the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, and Senate-confirmed Assistant Attorney General for the National Security Division. The FBI and DOJ obtained one initial FISA warrant targeting Carter Page and 3 FISA renewals from the FISC, which I mentioned. As required by statute, a FISA order on an American citizen must be renewed every 90 days, and each renewal requires a separate finding of probable cause. The then director, James Comey, signed the 3 FISA applications in question on behalf of the FBI, and Deputy Director Andrew McCabe signed one. And by the way, you guys, he just resigned this week right before retirement. Then DAJ, the Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, and Dana Bonte and Rod Rosenstein each signed one or more of the FISA applications on behalf of the DOJ. Due to the sensitive nature of the foreign intelligence activity, FISA submissions before the FISC are classified. That's the FISA court. As such, the public's confidence in the integrity of the FISA process depends on the court's ability to hold the government to the highest standard, particularly as it relates to surveillance of American citizens. However, the FISC's rigor in protecting the rights of Americans, which is reinforced by 90-day renewals of surveillance orders, is necessarily dependent on the government's production in the court of all material and relevant facts. This should include information potentially favorable to the target of the FISA application that is known by the government. In the case of Carter Page, the government had at least 4 independent opportunities before the FISA to accurately provide an accounting of the relevant facts. However, our findings indicate the dossier compiled by Chris Steele on behalf of the DNC and Clinton campaign formed an essential part of the Carter Page FISA application. Steele was a longtime FBI source who was paid over $160,000 by the DNC and Clinton campaign via the law firm Perkins Cole and research firm Fusion GPS to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump's ties to Russia. Neither the initial application in October 2016 nor any renewals disclose or reference the role of the DNC, the Clinton campaign, or any party campaign funding on Steele's efforts, even though the political origins of the dossier were then known to DOJ and FBI officials. The initial FISA application notes Steele was working for a named U.S. person but did not name Fusion GPS, and Principal Glenn Simpson, who was paid for by the U.S. law firm Perkins Cole, representing the DNC at the time that the political actors were involved with the Steele dossier. The application does not mention Steele was ultimately working on behalf and paid for by them. The Carter Page FISA application also cited in September 23, 2016, Yahoo News article Michael Isikoff, which focuses on Page's July 2016 trip to Moscow. This article does not corroborate the Steele dossier because it was derived from information leaked by Steele himself to Yahoo News. Well, I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to read the last paragraph. The Page FISA application also mentions information regarding fellow Trump campaign advisor George Papadapoulos, but there is no evidence of any cooperation or conspiracy between Page and Papadapoulos. The Papadopoulos information triggered the opening of the FBI counterintelligence investigation in late 2016 by FBI agent Peter Strzok. Strzok was reassigned to the Special Counsel Office at FBI Human Resources for improper text messages to his mistress, FBI attorney Lisa Page, where they both demonstrated a clear bias against Trump in favor of Clinton. So Ben was right. The Strzok-Lisa Page checks also reflect extension discussions about the investigation, orchestrating leaks to the media, and including a meeting with Deputy Director McCabe to discuss an insurance policy against Trump's campaign. To me, that means the insurance policy was trying to get rid of Trump so he wouldn't be elected. Now
Yeah,
you got
that's funny because
done.
that's funny because a lot of the people on Hillary's side have, you know, they use those two words, insurance policy.
Well,
and it's funny because you criticize.
What's confusing to me is that Hillary didn't have it easy with the FBI either.
Yes, she did. She knew that the leadership was basically in her pocket. She didn't have nothing to worry about. I know, but she still got called out on an investigation where she lost votes and the public confidence. That's the least of somebody's concerns when you've done things like that. You criticized me for bringing up Hillary Clinton.
It affected her election, Ben.
And thank goodness.
A lot of flip-flop. A lot of moderate voters went for somebody else.
But let me get back to you brought up you criticized me for bringing up Hillary again. This has everything to do with Hillary. The dossier, the investigation, everything. There's no way to talk about it without talking about the opposition.
The only defense I have, Ben, is that I have to bring an article I pulled up last week about Paul Manafort.
Well, you know,
now when I just text on, you guys, by the way, there was a little interruption. I had to text Don about what was going on because he hasn't called in, which means he fell asleep.
Here's
So,
what I think about
I just-
I just want to say something real quick because the DNC, when
Sure.
the FBI says that the Democrat Party wouldn't let agents see the hacked email servers, it was really messed up because like they were obviously cheating, you know, and they were scrutinizing, you know, Bernie Sanders and the other guys and favoring of Hillary Clinton, and so not only you know they didn't let the FBI agents you know look at their stuff, but what they did is they made a copy, right? I can't remember the name of the girl, Brazil, after DNC replicated servers for the FBI, then destroyed the machines. So they replicated the servers for the FBI, and they basically destroyed the machine, and they basically gave the copy in their own version to the FBI. So it's kind of, and the FBI was like, okay, you know, and they don't. And the FBI doesn't do any hard investigation of the DNC. They don't. It's like if it was somebody else, if it was like you know what I mean, like let's just say Joe's average business, FBI would be all over that, you know.
I guess the thing is, Ben, I want to mention something to you. Yeah, I know that Albert had, and Don Gallimore is on the line, but Ben had his radar up for the Hillary Clinton campaign and the faultiness of her campaign. I do want to mention one thing before Don gets in, otherwise I'm not going to have time to mention it. When you think about all these circular advisors that were trailing in and out through the Trump campaign, Papadapoulos, Trump Tower, Carter Page, you know, with all sketchy backgrounds. And then there was this Paul Manafort whose life had caved in. He lost millions of dollars to a lover who had a penthouse in New York. He was struggling when he joined the Trump campaign. He owed a Russian oligarch $20 million. And he also, while he was in the Ukraine for 10 years, he helped exacerbate a division between Russian speakers in the eastern part of the country and Ukrainian speakers in the western part of the country. And he played on this really long-standing sense of victimization that the Russian speakers felt. So he was helping to polarize and make more divisions in that country. And then he also tried to drive a wedge between those two groups. Not only that, but he also was buddy-buddy with Nixon at the height of the Watergate investigation. And as I mentioned to you guys earlier, when he was an effective campaign advisor, I think with Roger Moll or somebody like that. And he took on Ferdinand Marcos under his wing, who had assassinated Benigno Aquino in 1983. So he wasn't really a up-on-up person. So yes, you can go ahead and criticize Hillary Clinton, but Carter Page also bragged that he was an advisor to the Kremlin in a letter obtained by Time magazine, and he in the past, and it was sent in August of 2013. An academic press during the dispute. Just a minute. Over the past year, I have had privileges to serve as an informal advisor to the staff of the Kremlin in the preparation for the G20 summit. But he also had ties to Russian people that the FBI told Americans to have no contact with, that they were a risk to our national security. So you guys can comment, but I am pulling Don in. Do you have any comment on that, you guys?
No, I'm not.
And Ben,
Yes.
just like you, I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. I'm not trying to defend one side or the other.
Okay, well, but a good point was that you realized when you read through that dossier and you said, okay, Ben, you were right. but you watched Rachel Maddow, and you did not hear anything that I just said, and you read it yourself and found out what I was saying, right?
The only major point Rachel Maddow had is that Carter Page was under surveillance before the dossier was released. That was my main point. And my other main point that Rachel Maddow had brought up is that the GOP took it upon themselves to release classified information that's not supposed to be open to the public.
She's an actor. She's an actress. She basically
Well, what
reads.
if the FBI
she
is
reads.
the arm of a political? What if the FBI is the arm of a political conspiracy? Then what are we going to do about the FBI? John, you're on the air.
FBI, DA,
John
CIA.
Gallimore,
One time the CIA can find its own regulations on how to declassify their own documents. This is so ridiculous, you know?
well,
And
it
the-
said
the-
right in the dossier that the president has the authority to do that. It said right in the dossier that the president of the United States has the capability of declassifying any information he wants.
Right.
Right, there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of good law enforcement people in the FBI, but the leadership that was Obama's FBI leadership basically was in his pocket. So when it's the highest level, then you have problems.
The other problem, Carter Page
Sorry, Don.
really was not a significant.
That's all right. No
I
problem,
don't-
guys. I just want to say hi.
Yeah, where you been, Super Bowl
I've been
tailgate straggler?
No, that's the whole point. I've been picking up all the Super Bowl partiers, so I've been out here pretty busy already today.
Okay.
All right,
What do you
right
think
on.
of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was a very good Super Bowl. I can't believe that Brady beat it. You know, I mean, he played fantastic. And right at the end, I don't know what it was, if it was age, but he got hit pretty good in the early, third quarter, or no, the end of the second quarter when he got that hit. And in the abdomen, so that really bothered him. I wouldn't doubt if he had some cracked ribs or something like that after that hit. But it was a very, very good Super Bowl, and I know that everybody enjoyed it. And there are probably about 80% of the people that I've talked to since have said anybody that is with Brady, anybody can win it with Brady. So that's where we are. Yeah, no. In terms of the FBI and the DOJ are in the pocket of whomever is in the presidency. So if they come up with surveillance information that they shouldn't have had on Donald Trump, you know, and what they're bringing up against Hillary is, you know, 4 presidencies ago. So we're talking about all kinds of stuff that the DOJ is, you know, it's just they're complicit on anything that the sitting president is going to authorize.
All the time?
Right, but under
almost 100% of the time, the DOJ, the FBI, and to a lesser extent, the CIA will go with whatever the president says. He's their commander in chief and the one who gives them orders.
Under how many presidencies has the public ever received a memo?
None. I mean, all inside information. So for us to demand and get inside information, you know, classified information is very fair.
Right. But my point is that there's a lag time. This justice system that we're experiencing right now. We've had our first president take office basically he's been on probation this whole time because there's another force inside working against him or trying to prove him guilty of something. So
and that's his own. That was part of it. Is his own part. The shadow force that you're calling it is partially Republicans who are, members of Freedom Party or other fringe parties that never, the ultra conservatives who never wanted to see him in there in the first place.
Right, it's bipartisan. It's an attack, but it's not the entire party. There's certain establishment figures that basically they laugh at the two-party system because once they've been in there that long, they already know each other's agendas. They help each other out. But the Democrat Party is basically why wouldn't the top levels be in favor of a Democrat president? Because Democrats are pro-big government. Everything that they want to push takes more government and more funding. So why wouldn't the establishment fight for more power?
Well, yeah. See, the Democrats essentially are on the left side, and there are more pro-government. The Republicans basically are on the right side. So they're the right wing and they're the left wing. And yeah, the Republicans are supposed to be less government. But it's kind of the same, Democrats and Republicans, the foreign policy of war is always the same. And, the government spying on you and all that stuff, it's still the same on the Republicans or Democrats. It's the same. Very, very little changes. So I don't see any meaning in that.
Right. And the problem is that we're under so many changes to the Constitution, whether it's UN deals or acts or, all this new stuff that comes along and just wipes out amendments. No act or change is supposed to wipe out any of the inalienable rights that are talked about. And if you listen to somebody from the extreme left, they basically don't care about any of those. They assume that the more power that the government has, the better, because they don't want to leave things up to the individual.
I want to mention something. Good point, Ben. In May 16, 2016, Page sent a curious email to two fellow foreign policy advisors, J.D. Gordon and Waleed Faris. He said, as discussed, my strategy in order to keep in sync with the media relations guidelines of the campaign has been to make my key messages as low-key and apolitical as possible. But after seeing Donald Trump's tweet a few hours ago, in response to the cocky, in politics and in life, ignorance is not virtue, was a quote by the same speaker at Rutgers yesterday, I got another idea. I would like Donald Trump to take my place and raise the temperature a bit in Russia. Of course, I'd be happy to yield this honor to him. And then his friend wrote him back, are you talking about going to Russia? Just a minute, the page fell out. He said, are you talking about in honor of going to Russia, sending Trump instead of you? And Page wrote back, yeah. And the idea there was bearing in mind Barack Obama's speech as a candidate in Germany in 2008. That's what I was envisioning. And then Mr. Schiff wrote him back, I'm asking you, so were you proposing that Trump go to Russia instead of you? And he said, yes, that's the idea. So Page admitted that he emailed Trump advisors in a roundabout language about an upcoming trip to Russia. But then, at this point, he went to Russia himself as a private citizen for 5 days. And after he returned, he started to keep tabs on the Republican convention. And when Trump's team helped block a delegate's proposed amendment calling for the U.S. to arm the Ukraine, Page was thrilled. As for the Ukraine amendment, excellent work, he wrote in an email to campaign foreign policy advisors.
Right. Well, this is a clear example of throwing rocks from a glass house. I mean, how many dollars How many dollars did Russia give the Clintons, whether it was directly to them for speeches or to their foundation? And why would you turn it around and say, point your finger and say that person deals with Russia when you've got millions?
I've got a call, guys.
Okay, we'll see you in a minute. I guess the thing is this article on Vox.com also said that Page went to Russia again by himself in December of 2016. Like, why? What are people doing in Russia? I mean, what do they want there?
Well, obviously, Russians love to hear Americans speak, so they pay them hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to come there and just talk.
Well, there were rumors from Russia
They might like
that
our accent.
Page had met with Igor Sechin, the CEO of Rosneft, the majority Russian government-owned oil company, and discussed lifting U.S. sanctions. And Page also met with Igor Divikin, a Russian intelligence official, and discussed a Russian compromat on Clinton and Trump. I don't know what they mean compromat, if that's a word like diplomat.
Apparently, something went wrong with the audio.
I don't know. I think back in
2013,
with Donald Trump was the highest paid speaker at Wall Street. He got paid. I don't even remember how much, but it was like half a bill.
Did you know he had Russian industry ties too? Donald Trump?
But that's America.
I don't know what they are. I'm just telling you. When Page met with Sechin, the oil executive, supposedly he offered Page and Trump's associates the brokerage of up to 19% in privatized stake in the Rosneft in return for lifting sanctions, and that Page expressed interest and confirmed that Trump would lift the sanctions if he won. Do you guys believe this?
That's all BS.
Well, you know what?
I mean, what does Page
the whole
try making
demonization of
promises?
Russia, the demonization of Russia might as well be racism, and it's coming from the party that tries to abolish racism. Everything Russia equals bad now, you know, whether
like
it's the
big
news
bad
or the
bear.
right. It's the boogeyman. Everybody needs a boogeyman to be able to push an agenda. There needs to be a consequence if you don't listen and comply. So Russia has become the boogeyman that's driving all this power. And if Trump does anything with Russia, he's going to be criticized for it. But there's not only bad things, but nobody's looking for anything good about the United States, you know, working with Russia at all. If you go back and look at Syria, once Russia got in there, they started destroying ISIS. We were there for how long with no results? They came in there and mopped up. So do we agree on certain things? Maybe. Are they more efficient at certain things? Maybe. But are they
Well, they're they're probably more disciplined, and their government is more cohesive because they're all on the same page. Just
well,
not
they're smaller.
Was hoping for ISIS to attack over there, and that part over there, and Syria. I think it was Syria, and you know what I mean, and basically ultimately take out the dictator right there.
Right, but they have less money
By
to
the
waste.
way, you know that Victor Podobny, who was in contact with Page, he called Carter Page an idiot, and he said the Russian said, "I will feed him empty promises. You promise a favor for a favor. you got the documents from it, and then tell him to go blank himself.
Well, I have one theory about why they look successful when they take action. It looks like more success than we've had sometimes, and they have a lot less money to waste. They can't just sit around and blow millions of dollars occupying an area. They actually use force really quickly. So they just lost a fighter jet. They shot down a fighter jet.
Yeah, I heard about that. But that was in Syria, right?
Right. And then the next thing they did was they punched back harder. They increased the bombing, and they probably pinpointed the areas that they needed to bomb, and they did it. I don't know what that means for us, because I don't know how bad this could be, having two superpowers occupy opposing each other in the same territory. I don't like the situation.
Well, they've been opposing each other for quite a while, but all they do is proxy wars. There's never an indirect war between Russia and the U.S. It's always proxy wars.
Russia deserves to pay a price for all the problems they've created in Syria. You can't go. It's a high-risk situation, and all they're trying to get is geopolitical leverage. And in the meantime, people are losing their lives.
Right, but the thing is that the politics is different between what they're doing there and what we're doing there. And I don't fully understand what we're doing there.
Well, I don't even know how many peacekeeping forces we have, and even if it's part of a UN coalition or our own. Do you?
No, we have irons in the fire all over the world. All over the world.
But our direct involvement with Syria is limited, but I can look it up while you're talking. By the way, I just want to mention one thing to you, Ben, before we move off this topic. The memo that we were discussing claims that Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director, testified that no surveillance warrant would have been sought from the FIC court without the Steele dossier information. Now the Democrats are arguing that Nunes is mischaracterizing what McCabe said. So do you think McCabe is retiring just to get out of the heat?
I think he's been caught.
Oh, he probably got a big settle, some money to, pay from the back, underneath tables, and just walk out.
Well, sometimes, besides the people who are working for the government, I really wonder, what kind of income people like Carter Page and George Papadapoulos survive on. It can't just all be consulting fees.
Well, I'm pretty sure they're doing pretty good.
It can't just all be consulting fees, can it?
Well, if they got to put themselves right in front of the people, so people can criticize them, and they're gonna look bad and everything like that. At least if you're gonna look bad and you're gonna get criticized and you're doing something wrong, then you better get paid darn well.
Right.
Right. This is life and death business.
If you guys do want to move away from this topic, the only conclusion I want to make is that this Russian thing can't go in circles forever. Something has to happen. There has to be more information that comes up, or the public's just going to lose interest. I don't see how it could ever end up with impeachment.
Well, it's a waste of money, I think. I think this whole investigation has put, just siphoned money or where it could have been utilized. We could have been spending this money. I mean, if you want to take a step back from this investigation, how many millions of dollars it's cost, and then look at any downtown area and look at somebody homeless. Do you think this is helping them? No. There's starving people with no homes. There's people right on the edge of losing their house right now. And we're spending money trying to continue a media narrative. That's enough, enough.
Well, even before I knew anything about it, I thought it was a waste of time. But at least I do know something about it now.
Well, here's the. I heard what you said, and that it is a waste of money. Another thing that's a waste of money is golf resorts. Golf, basically golf places where you go play golf, and they're so freaking huge. It's ridiculous. And I remember statistics showing that if you actually were to take each golf place and provide homeless shelters within the golf areas where people play golf, they screw with people that play golf and let people like have their tent or something and put up a some kind of shelter or whatever. Literally, they have like 5 times more space to provide a shelter for homeless people if they just use the golf results, the golfing results. And see, and you won't even have to buy land or make an area to provide for homeless people. There's so much extra room in the golf places.
Golf is controversial if you're talking about fiscal spending, but meetings. If a golf game is a meeting between world leaders, that of course it's easy to criticize. But if they're just sitting on their butt, around $100,000 desk, it's still costing lots of money for that meeting to happen. So if it's a game of golf, I guess I understand. But wasting a lot of tax dollars on golf is never responsible when there's big problems, humanitarian problems.
Well, all I can say is that it's still clouding the news, but I don't think the memo was really that earth-shattering.
Please stay tuned while the audio reloads.
You know what I mean?
You have to look at it, though. You have to look at it starting in the middle of the campaign in 2016, or towards the end of the campaign. You have to go all the way back there to really understand how bad this is. Right, and this is only the first memo. There's several more coming.
Ben, the thing is we don't really know all the information.
Right, but so many people that have been talking about this are being proved right almost daily. And this is only the first memo. There's several more coming, I believe.
Well, this is pretty bad to say, but we've been talking an hour, and I've run out of material. Is there something else you guys want to talk about? Be my guest.
Yeah, racist trees.
What?
All right.
What'd you say?
Listen, since we brought up golf, did you hear that story about the trees being racist?
No.
At a golf place in Arizona. Oh, well, if you Google it, it's almost comedy.
The trees being racist.
Yeah, just Google racist trees. You'll probably find the article. It's about a golf resort that planted trees to buffer the golfers or the golf course from the neighborhood, and the neighborhood got upset, saying that the golfers don't want to see the low-income housing.
Oh yeah.
Remember we weren't going to bring up racism tonight?
That's why I did it. I'm triggering you.
You know,
It's very funny.
because every time they try to build up homeless shelters or something like that, you know, they have a hard time finding locations because you know, a lot of middle class people and above middle class people they don't want homeless shelters right next to their neighborhood because they say, oh, if the homeless shelters are right next to our neighborhood, our really nice neighborhood, you know, with expensive cars and real, big houses and stuff like that, the homeless people are going to be walking to their neighborhoods and their kids could be playing outside, and they think it's going to provide crimes or something like that. And so it's really sad to say that, you can't get, stuff like, things like that in certain areas because, high level class people just don't want those type of programs around their area. Not even just homeless shelters, but other programs that provide poor people help. They want it somewhere else, but not near their neighborhood.
Right, but the problem with that
article,
the article is baiting, and every golf course has a buffer between the golf course and the houses. Every golf course has trees planted intentionally to protect the windows. And can you imagine, on top of that, can you imagine if a millionaire hit a golf ball and it went into a community and hit a kid in the head? I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. So,
yeah, I'm
you
looking
can see it
at
from
the
both
golf
ways.
course. I'm looking at the golf course, and I see how the row of trees are so thick you can't even see across the street.
Yeah, but if you can see through it, you can hit a golf ball through it. That's the point. They probably chose the variety of trees for a reason, so they don't have to replace window after window.
And that was a racist.
Well, that's a good point.
Are they going to replace them with racist? Are they going to replace them with racist trees like they did in Arizona?
That's what I brought up.
Yeah, I heard.
I thought it was funny.
It's in Palm. Don, it's in Palm Springs, not. It's in Palm Springs, California.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, but
bottom line is they're totally racist trees right here.
It might be in Albert's backyard. Albert lives in Cathedral City.
I promised that I wasn't going to bring up race. So
Yeah, it's Ben's fault. He's in the hot seat.
Yeah, it's their fault.
I'm trolling Jane because I read that text. I want you to get triggered about it.
Speaking of racism, I feel one place where blacks and whites come together in love and unity is the football field. It's
whatever.
It's the best really emasculated world.
You mean they sit together, but they don't hold hands and hug each other and pat each other in the backs, Unless they are,
How do you know?
Football stadium before them together.
And music. We can't leave out music. That's a good bridge between cultures.
Right.
But that's the point. That's the point. I can listen to any culture's music, and if I like it, I like it. It doesn't matter about the culture. If I like the music, then I like the music.
I have a racist thing to say. It was a white patriot. It was a white patriot who fumbled a football, and a black eagle, Philadelphia Eagle, picked it up.
How's that racist?
It's not. They're just bigger, faster, and more supreme.
Well, okay. We got that. I was just wondering about that particular play.
That was racist.
Okay, whatever.
What did you say, John?
Nothing.
No, not you, Don. I was talking about her rebuttal to it. That part was racist. The end of it was.
I was agreeing with it, so that's why I was implicating myself. Hey, how you doing? All right, I got it right.
I'm not gonna talk about race, but the Philadelphia defense was pretty much took the game. If it wasn't for a couple of those players like number 55, he was the star of the show on Philadelphia.
Now I wish I watched the game.
Yeah, Philadelphia, there were so many offensive plays by the Patriots that the Eagles blocked and thwarted. And even Tom Brady's last run down the end zone, they really, like, he hit so many balls on the ground, he just couldn't get a pass up. You guys, I have to make a water run, so can you hold down the fort? Don, are you there?
Got to run.
Okay, well, I think we should just keep the show an hour tonight. I'm fading. I was in a restaurant for 8 hours today, and I only got an hour of sleep.
Okay.
I mean, we can do another midweek show if people are on the ball, but there's not really anything really big in the news right now besides the GOP memo. So,
Right.
Albert,
Oh,
do you
by
have
the
a
way.
conclusion? I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank